Hey, it's MK, and I am here with another Mixed Media Mayhem recipe for you guys today. And today I am going to be mixing it up with my Kit Conspiracy kit for this week. Now, I thought that I had recorded the button, but I did not. So I'm going to be using this snap binder in brown. It is a limited edition, and it came with all of these little goodies inside. And I'm going to be decorating the outside of the binder. So I have some Distress ink in Festive Berry with my blender tool that I'm going to be using my Dusty Attic stencil that's forks, spoons, and knives. I love this stencil, you guys. So I'm going to be using that, which I actually already did. I also have this page pieces in triplicate because I'm making 3 of everything this week. I also have this free cut file. If you guys want to go and grab it for this week only, it will be free. I cut mine down to 6 inches for the front of my album. And then off camera, because I thought I pushed the record button, I already used my stencil, and then I also splattered a little bit on the back or the front of my album. And then I'm going to be using a die cut for my wood grain paper. However, I'm going to trace it instead of run it through because I can get all 3 of them on one piece of paper instead of just one on each piece of paper if I was to have cut it down to fit inside of my die cut machine. So I'm okay with cutting this out. So I'm going to go ahead and fussy cut out all 3 of these on one piece of paper. Now I do have 3 pieces of paper for each album. So I'm thinking since I used this one piece for all 3 albums, then I can use the other 2 pieces plus the leftover of this one for the other 3 albums as well. Share and share alike, right? And I will be going back to the paper. I didn't just pick out this one piece of paper, although I tried. So I'm going to go ahead and finish fussy cutting this out. And because my cutting is not superb, of course, you guys know me, I'm going to be bringing out my distress tool and end up actually distressing all of the edges of this oval as well. I could have done a circle because circles are super easy for me. But I really wanted an oval just because of the area, the surface area of the album that I had to play with. I also debated about bringing in the other side as a little extra pattern. And I thought, nope, I think it's going to be too busy with everything else that I want to add to it. This is a nice, good pattern print that isn't too busy with everything else that I want to include. So another thing I'm going to do is distress the edges only of the front of the album. I'm not really worried about the back side, but I am going to distress the edge of all 3 albums. And this one here, I do only end up making 1 on camera, but the pictures show that I do end up doing all 3. I'm a good girl. I'm not going to just tell you I'm going to do all 3. I'm actually going to do all 3. This is super easy. It's almost like an assembly line. Once I figure out the first one, the other 2 come together uber super simple. So, and it is what I intended this whole kit for, or why I purchased them in the first place is for these albums. And so that's why I have so many supplies, you guys. I have my Kit Conspiracy kit in triplicates. So that way I have plenty of pieces for everybody. All right, so I'm going to go through my little page pieces and pick and choose what pieces I want, again, in all 3. But I don't make you guys watch me pick all 3 pieces, do I? Maybe I do. Oh, I do. I'm so sorry. I thought maybe I was going to cut that piece out. So I'm definitely going to be using my title piece, which just says recipe on the front. And then I've got some utensils and a bowl behind the rolling pin. Sorry, words are hard. And then I've picked out the floral bits that come in the page pieces. I picked out an oven mitt and a label. Oh, and then measuring spoons as well. And then off camera, I don't think you guys see it or not, but I do end up going into my chipboard. So I'm not sure if I share that with you guys or not just yet. I am distressing all of the edges, and then on the oven mitt, the measuring spoons and the label, I do trim off the white pieces just a hair. I felt like they were just a little bit too big. But for the flowers, I just used my fingernail and scuffed them up a little bit and gave them a little bit of life. In the chipboard piece, I pulled out this apron, and then I also pulled out that wooden spoon with a little heart inside because I felt like it went right underneath the word recipes perfectly as soon as I get it just right. So I wanted my oven mitt and my spoons to look like they were hanging from the label, but the oven mitt just looked wrong. So I'm not sure if I'm going to use it yet. Need to figure out how I'm going to get it to replace. Here I'm testing out my wooden spoon, not quite sure how I want it to look, but I wasn't sure also whether or not I wanted it to cover up the label. It does end up covering up the label too. So not a big deal, but I just wasn't sure at first, like, what am I going to put on the label? It says recipes, but cookbook doesn't make sense when you plural the word recipes. So yeah, I just wasn't too sure about that. I had to pull out my tweezers so that way I could get everything else to stay the way that I want it. And then when I add the oven mitt back in, that's when I realized that I want to back my cut file, at least on the rolling pin and the little hat. So now I'm going to go through my papers and decide what do I want behind the rolling pin and the hat. And at first I thought, oh my gosh, this floral paper was super cute in the one area that I tried it. But then when I tried it in other areas, it just was not super cute. It did not work out in that manner. So I'm going to go through and pick and decide. I almost fussy cut out this large apron instead because I wasn't sure if the chipboard apron was big enough. So I'm contemplating that. And then I found a nice grid paper. It wasn't big enough for my 6-inch piece. And then I found this beautiful plaid, and I thought, oh my gosh, I could use these ones here that are all about Thanksgiving, because I'm not making a specific Thanksgiving album. I'm actually making an all-around cookbook. So I thought, oh, both of these relate to Thanksgiving. I can trim both of them out and still be able to use the other side. Well, now I'm trying to find a piece that will work for my hat. And I really don't want to cut into all of these pieces just yet because I had plans for actually every single one of these. So I'm not really sure just yet. And then I went back to my other 3 cut apart sheets because like I said, I've got one for each one. Well, because I used one of the turkey ones on for all 3 layouts for the rolling pin, I'm going to cut out both of my green turkey cut apart sheets and use those for the hats. I wasn't sure if I could get all of the hats to fit on one card or if I was going to have to use 2 cards. So because I'm using that square for all 3 cards, I could use the other 2 squares somewhere else as well. So it gave me permission, basically. All right, so I am going to fussy cut these all out all at the same time, but I'm not going to make you guys watch me do all of this. So I went ahead and I backed all of my rolling pins, and now I'm just going to fussy cut out one for you guys. And the way that I like to do it is I just like to angle my scissors. I like to glue my cut file down on the paper, angle my scissors, and then cut out. I do it this way because I feel like it's faster than any other method that I have seen. But to each their own, right? It is definitely more stressful just because of the fact that you could possibly accidentally cut into your cut file and things like that. So I'm also going to back all of my hats in this pretty green paper. And again, I don't make you watch me do all of them. And to get this to really stick good on the front of my album, because this one is going to be exposed and definitely manhandled, literally by 3 boys, I will want them to stick. So I'm going to use my my tear and tape for every single one of the pieces that are going to go on the top. Now I do use adhesive when I'm doing paper to paper, but when I do the paper to the chipboard, I'm actually going to use the tear and tape and liquid adhesive. So that way I know that it's going to stay really, really well. So here I'm just going to go ahead and figure out how I want everything to go together without working on the book. Because when you work on the book, it's angled. And so you're kind of working at a slant. And I thought, no, I'd rather work on a flat surface and worry about only sticking the whole piece on the front of the album instead of everything. I do still feel really bad, you guys, that I did not get to share with you guys how I added my stencil and whatnot. All I used was that really low tack tape for for die cuts in your machine. I used that to cover up the spine of my album, and then I used the red Festive Berries ink and stenciled it on, and then of course I splattered while the tape was still on there. So I just feel really bad that I thought I had the camera recording, and then when I looked up it was all black. Oh, good grief. So of course it is what it is. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and tuck everything down, glue it all down with liquid adhesive. Where I feel like it needs a little bit more help, I'm going to tuck my little apron in there. I thought that was a cute little addition. I know these are going to a bunch of boys, you guys. I really do. But my boys are really good boys, I have to say. So anything that they're not going to be embarrassed at all to get something like this from their mom, especially if it's chocked full of the recipes that they handpicked that they wanted in their first cookbook. So I think that it's going to go really well. I am going to try not to use the florals, but of course, right on the get-go, I already used florals and an apron. So how manly is that? I'm just not too worried about it. Okay, so I'm going to tear it off, all of my tear and tape, and then use some liquid adhesive. I'm not looking for full coverage, you guys. I'm just looking for, I want it to stick and stay. I'm trying to go super flat, except for the chipboard that I added to it. But I do want to make sure that everything's going to stay at least for a couple years. I'm okay if it ends up, fading over time or coming loose over time. We can always fix that. But there is the front of the album, and I have two more to make. And there they are. I am so super excited to get this project going. I'm stoked and just feel this is awesome. All right, you guys, join me tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be step 1 of making the divider cards. And don't forget to check out Janet Fritz's channel, and I will check you guys all later. Again, thank you so much. Bye.